That is so soft. I don't think they've done any tuning here for the Australian market, because that is way too soft. Onto the throttle. I'll just stay in that. Very good. G'day, I'm Paul. I have been very excited to drive this. It is the Toyota Tundra, and if you're watching this from overseas, this has probably been on sale for ages, but for us in Australia, this has been a long time in the making, because Toyota is converting this to right-hand drive here in Australia. Well, they're basically dishing that work out to somebody else, but it is done here in Australia. This car was actually subjected to over a year of customer testing, where they allowed customers to pay for effectively beta testing of this car before they decided whether they were going to put it on sale or not. There was like 300 units that went through that program. So it is finally on sale. Today we get to drive it. We're going to do a detailed review of this. It's going to set you back just over $155,000, which is a huge sum of money, given that most of its other competitors in the segment start at much lower price ranges, and this here in Australia is the Limited, which is basically the basement of the Tundra iForce Max range in the States. So it'll be interesting to see how that stacks up in terms of features and the feel inside the cabin compared to something like one of the new Rams, which has just been updated. So today we're going to do a detailed review of this. If you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this review, you can use the time codes that are on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. We'll also do a little bit of light off-roading as well. Now, in terms of design, what do we reckon? Look, styling is subjective, but I actually think this looks pretty cool. So it's got that big, enormous grille up the front there, which just seems to be synonymous with big pickup trucks. You've got these black highlights down the bottom section as well. LED headlights. Not projector lights, so they're just sort of like a basic LED beam with an auto high beam. You've got some aero elements off to the side here, and then an indicator built into this section as well. Come around to the side with me. Have a look at this here. I don't understand this. It's like, it's meant to be a vent, but it's not a real vent, and it just seems like they've just stuck something on the bonnet there, and it just looks a little bit cheap and nasty. Not really a huge fan of that. Wheel arch guards over here. You're sitting on a set of highway terrain tyres, so not really an off-road focused tyre, but on a 20-inch alloy wheel with the machined finish there, and then kind of graphite on the inside there. If you are going to do any off-roading, you really want to be going down the path of an all-terrain. It doesn't seem to have a lot of the off-roading equipment you're going to find in some of the competitors in this segment as well, in terms of drive modes and other stuff that I'll walk you through when we go for a drive. So maybe it's more an on-road focused vehicle. The side steps, I like these because it's like a proper sort of metallic side step there, instead of the plastic stuff you find on some dual cab utes, which I just don't really like the look of. You've got indicator built into here. It is a 360 camera, so you've got a camera mounted under there. Chrome door handles, privacy glass. Come around to the back with me. Around the back, LED tail lights. It's kind of funny, you've got Toyota in little letters there. Normally we have Toyota on a Hilux written on the back here. And then 4x4 badge over there. You have a 4.5 tonne brake towing capacity. I'll run you through the GVM and the GCM in just a second. You have a sort of hydraulic release on this, and you can also release it with a key too. It's not a spray and bed liner, so it's one of these sort of plastic ones that are then bolted in. So, I don't know, I like the concept of a spray and bed liner, but this seems to have, it looks like they've gone to a bit of effort to actually put this in properly. We've got a load management system up the top here as well that slides along as required. No power outlets in the tray though, which is unfortunate, and it is one of the downsides to these converted pickup trucks is that you have different power requirements for the Australian market. And a lot of the time, the R&D work that needs to go into that just can't be achieved, so they just don't offer anything with some of the other brands. So I would like to see something like this. Ford's Pro Power on board stuff that they have with F-150 in the States. It gives you a stack of features that would be good to see added into a vehicle like this. So let's talk about your numbers. You have just over 750 kilos of payload, GCM of 7,825 kilos, and GVM of just over 3,500 kilos. So it means that if you are towing at maximum capacity of 4.5 tonnes, you're going to have around 300 kilos worth of payload left to work with. So not a huge amount, given that you know, you throw a couple of passengers in and a bit of stuff in your tray here and you're kind of at the limit there. So you may need to look at a GVM upgrade if you're going to regularly tow 4.5 tonnes and be at that capacity, and you still need to have things inside the vehicle as well. So let me know what you reckon. What do you think about the design? What do you think about the pricing? Let me know in the comments section below. So we're inside the Tundra. This is what the key looks like. You've got lock, unlock, tailgate, panic, the Toyota logo, and it's blank on the back. This is a proximity sensing key, so you can leave that in your pocket and you've got a push button start just over here. Okay, so what do we think about the interior? Well, I have just driven the new Ram 1500, the Hurricane, in limited trim, which is kind of the same spec as this. And I got to tell you, this feels significantly, I guess it looks significantly cheaper in here than the Ram does. And at this price point, I was kind of hoping for something a little nicer than this. This is kind of the interior you'd expect to find on the Hilux when it is updated. So yeah, but look, if you start sort of poking around, you start feeling some of these scratchy surfaces. Piano black through here, it just doesn't feel overly premium. And I guess that in the States where this doesn't carry the price tag of having a conversion added onto it, it is, I guess, more realistically priced. But anyway, let me know what you reckon in the comments section below. Do you think it looks good, or do you think they could have perhaps done a little bit more here with the interior to make it look nice? If you put that to the side though, the touch points that you're sort of in contact with here in the center, that's actually pretty nice. They've got that sort of split central system here. You've got soft touch there on the door as well. How soft are they? We've got our durometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you do want to see how this car compares to others that we've tested before, there is a link in the description below. Now, build quality. Let's see what it feels like. That's nice and solid there. That's what our door slam sounds like. It's not too bad. Thought I'd point out here as well that these cars come to Australia as left-hand drive vehicles and are then converted to right-hand drive in Australia. And from the conversion point of view, I honestly can't tell any difference here. This all looks to a very high standard, and it all looks like it was meant to be here out of the factory. So from a conversion standpoint, I think they've done a really good job with this setup. Now let's talk infotainment. So you've got a 14-inch display here. Pretty big old display, so they've kind of supersized what you find on a Lexus, so it's a similar layout. The only exception to it is we don't get satellite navigation here for the Australian market. It's one of those things it doesn't seem like they've invested into making it work here with the inbuilt satellite navigation, so you have to use your phone through smartphone mirroring, and that's wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. I'll show you what Apple CarPlay looks like, so see that full screen integration. Now, I'll run you through just a couple of things that really annoy me with this, where they've done the conversion here on the steering and stuff, but haven't really paid a great deal of attention to the electronics. And if you're driving along sort of normally, I can't reach the volume button for the radio. So yes, you've got steering wheel controls, but if you need to quickly change it, you've got to lean all the way over to adjust that. That should be over here. But the worst part is dealing with the infotainment system. If you need to put an address in or change a setting, I can't reach that side of the screen, so I have to go all the way in over here to find that tiny little button to then kind of work on those controls. And it's like, guys, you should have really gone to the effort of moving that over to that side. And then kind of the final one that's just really given me the irrits is this here, and I've seen this before with other brands too. So if you adjust your temperature here, so let's say it's 19, you want to sync them, you press this, it's syncing to the passenger side. So it's not possible to have this move at the same rate as this when they're in sync. You can only do it from the passenger side. So I think it's a bit disappointing that they haven't gone to the effort required to make all of this work. Whether they didn't know about it, I don't know, but they did a year's worth of, I guess, beta testing with these cars to make sure they were okay. And this sort of stuff here, they absolutely should have picked up during that conversion process. So that is pretty disappointing. But outside of that, sound system is great, JBL branded, 12-speaker sound system. It's fantastic. The rest of the functionality here is pretty straightforward. It doesn't sort of do anything too crazy. It's just an inoffensive infotainment system. Head of the driver, you have a 12.3-inch display. This has a level of customizability as well, so you can flick through different menus and customize what appears on the screen there. This all works pretty well, and I'm sort of fairly happy with how that goes through and how it's operated. You've got a digital rear view mirror, very handy feature that. Got front and rear parking sensors and a 360 camera. And I'll show you what that looks like. So I'll pop this into reverse. It's going to be annoying and beep a little bit. So there's your view out the back. That's your top-down view. Top-down view isn't all that amazing in terms of the quality. You can then jump in and see the side views. They're not really that much better either. You've then got the reverse view, front view, but I love this. You've got a bed view, so you can actually see what's going on in the tray there, which is pretty good. So yeah, look, camera could be slightly better there in terms of quality, but you know, it's fine for what it is. And this is what the horn sounds like. Now, moving on to practicality, and we'll start off with your connectivity. So you've got a Qi wireless phone charger. Location is pretty good, but it misses out on the stuff you'll find on a Ram 1500. They've got like a little clasp that holds your phone in. So if you're doing any off-road driving, your phone's going to constantly bounce around in there and go on and off charging. So not the best setup, and you might just want to look at weighing your phone down a little bit if you are going to be doing any off-roading and you need to charge your phone. Single USB-A port up the top here. In the center console, you have a USB-C and a USB-A port. And then 12-volt outlet is located up the top there. You've got a little storage tray there as well. In terms of storage in general, it's not too bad. You've got this little sort of thing that slides back and gives you access to your center console. You've got cup holders there, sunglasses holder up the top here. Pretty reasonably sized glove box. Well, so actually. Well, I don't know, you can kind of split it between those two sections if you need to. One feature I did just sort of come across that I thought was really cool, this button up here opens the rear window, but the rear window goes down. It's, I think that's a really cool setup as opposed to what we normally see, which is the window opening and closing that way. So I like the look of that. In terms of your comfort, so I've spent a bit of time driving this now. The seats are quite comfortable, heated and cooled. You've got dual zone automatic climate control up the front here. So it comes with all of those sort of bells and whistles as you'd expect. Seat adjustment, so it's electric. You go forwards and backwards. Your backrest can go forwards and backwards. You can lift the front of the seat. You can lift the back of the seat. You have lumbar adjustment and seat memory as well. Passenger seat is also electrically adjustable. Steering offers both tilt and reach. Oh, that's very grindy. That is super grindy. It's very, there's a lot of resistance there. I'm having to put all of my little man muscles in to make that work. So we'll get Toyota to have a look at that, and I'll add a little section in this part of the video once they've had a chance to check that out. And then I mentioned our reach stuff earlier, that it's a little tricky to reach some of that stuff while you're driving. Now, second row. Normally this is where I'd show you what's under the seat. Well, I will show you that now, but it's not what you'd expect. There's no storage under there, which is pretty disappointing. So this is a side effect of needing to have battery storage for the engine, which is a hybrid engine, and it also means there's no storage behind here either. I mean, there's a jack in there and some kind of a towing kit over here, but and a subwoofer, but there's really nowhere to store things. Outside of that though, once you do hop inside, you have heaps of room, which is great. So heaps of knee room. Toe room's great. Headroom is pretty good as well. You don't have a flat floor like you do in some of the sort of American pickup trucks, so you do have that hump there. But outside of that, it is sort of a pretty reasonable place to be seated. Center armrest there, 2 cup holders. You've got air vents on the side here, none on the flanks there to keep you cool, so that's really all you have access to. You have 2 USB outlets down here, an A and a C, and a little slot here for your phone. This, I suspect, is where the American power outlet used to be or lives. It doesn't seem to be standardized for the Australian market. What about our window test? Let's see. So it's auto up and down. Let's see if it goes all the way down. Look at that. Winner, winner. Okay, we've just hit the road in the Tundra. Hear that noise? That is us driving around with the engine switched off, because this is a hybrid. So basically, it works in a similar way to other Toyota hybrid products, where you have an internal combustion engine that pairs with an electric assistant of some sort, and then basically that allows you to drive the vehicle in certain instances with the engine switched off. And this can actually do it when you're coasting as well. It'll switch the engine off, and then when you have mild throttle inputs, you'll see it there on the right hand side, it just goes blue, and it's basically using reserve battery energy to move the vehicle along. The second you push it a little bit harder, it then switches the internal combustion engine on. Unlike other Toyota products though, this doesn't use the same type of transmission, and it's a little bit complicated to explain, but in something like a RAV4 or a Camry hybrid, Toyota actually uses a set of motor generators, and they're effectively electric motors encased in a transmission, and these allow the vehicle to vary gear ratios by spinning those motors at different speeds and in different directions as well. And that is why you don't feel traditional gear shifts in some of those hybrid products, whereas in this you do, because they're using a 10-speed automatic hybrid transmission. So when it is in hybrid mode and you take off from a standing start, you can actually feel it moving through the gears. So if I just lightly press the throttle now, I can feel as it accelerates, it's grabbed the next gear and then the next gear again. So it's always sort of moving through those gears, which isn't the end of the world. It's not as smooth as that sort of traditional setup, but it does the job fine. Under the bonnet is a pretty meaty engine, so 3.4 litre turbocharged V6 petrol engine. That alone makes almost 300 kilowatts of power and around 650 newton meters of torque. So it's a really nice and strong engine. And that then combines with the electric drivetrain to give you a power output of over 300 kilowatts of power. So it is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to giving you a shunt in the back. So when you give it a kick, like, it sort of gives you a good old shunt. And the cool thing as well is when you are accelerating, you can actually hear turbo spooling as well, which is kind of a cool little feature to have. They do have what sounds like fake induction noise inside the cabin. They've tried to give it a sort of a gruff V8 tone, which is kind of cool. It sounds like it's actually doing something. And that noise that we heard earlier when the engine was switched off is actually a noise that is projected outside the cabin as well. Now let's talk about fuel economy. If you are going to be driving this in town and around on the highway, 11 litres per 100 Ks is what you're getting just for highway driving. We've been using this car for our drag races, and you can watch that drag race by clicking up here. But it was sitting at over 20 litres per 100 Ks with a mix of highway driving and the drag race stuff. So I do expect it to use a fair bit of fuel, even though it is hybridised. Now, sine wave time. Crank the speed up to 130. See what it's like across our sine waves. See what the body control's like when you're out in the country. Oh my goodness. That is not very good at all. That is so soft. I don't think they've done any tuning here for the Australian market, because that is way too soft. What you're going to find if you're out in the country somewhere and you hit a set of those consecutive bumps, it is just going to linger and feel really sort of boat-like as it sort of moves along them. And yes, while this is built for comfort and driving in the States, you know, it's just not a very nice feeling when the speed picks up. So I think that is definitely something they need to work on, and to give this a bespoke Australian suspension tune, because I think that's definitely what it needs. Now, one thing I did notice is a knocking sound, and we actually experienced this exact same sound when the 300 series came out. We let Toyota know about it. 300 series shares a version of this platform, and Toyota said it was normal. So you hear it on minor bumps, and it's really hard to distinguish where the noise is coming from. We're going to play some audio from a GoPro that we've mounted on the car to give you a better sort of understanding of what the noise is. But I'm going to go on our bumpy road here, which we do at 90 k's an hour, and there it is there. You'll be able to hear that noise. It's like a knocking sound from the suspension. And you hear it all the time. Like, it is a really... It's a really annoying sound, and just yet again, it surprises me that they could have gone through a year worth of customer evaluation and additional engineering on this and not have picked up that sound, which sounds like it's coming from the front suspension. That is really strange to me. So yeah, we'll bring the suspension knocking and this, steering that requires superhuman strength to move to Toyota's attention, and we'll see what the story is with it. Sorry to interrupt the video. I finally got a response from Toyota regarding the car. I let them have a look at it to tell us what was actually wrong. I'm going to put this up on the screen. We're going to read this straight from the email. So, steering column, the one that required superhuman strength to move. They wrote, "We agree that the steering column adjustment mechanism was over-tensioned. We inspected and adjusted the mounting and confirmed steering column alignment, which has rectified the condition. In keeping with our commitment to continuous improvement, we have shared this information with our technical, assembly and service teams." On the rattle, they claim that the rattle came from the spare wheel, which had not correctly been secured. Once it was properly secured, they couldn't replicate the sound. Looking forward to having another drive of the Tundra, because it is the same sound we've had in 300 series and other Toyota products before. So I'll be curious to see whether it is indeed the spare wheel or whether it's something else. So I'll keep you posted on that. Just in general though, on these issues, the whole reason this car wasn't on sale for a year or so while they were doing beta testing with customers was so they could iron out all these issues. I just find it staggering that you could have a car come down the production line and have it come out as a press vehicle, which is going to be under extreme scrutiny, and have stuff like that there. So that does concern me for customers' cars. Let us know in the comments section below, have you bought one of these and have you had any issues with yours? Now let's talk about drive modes. All the other dual cab utes you can get in this segment in Australia come with like a four-wheel drive automatic mode. The Tundra doesn't, so you can only drive it in two-wheel drive high range on sealed surfaces. If you switch over to four high, you'll potentially do damage to your drivetrain if you're turning, which I just find really bizarre. But they do have drive modes here, so we'll flick over to sport. We'll see what it's like once the speed picks up, because I'm curious to see if it's not really built for sort of off-roading with those controls. Let's see what it feels like here. Maybe it's more an on-road car. God, the pickup is incredible. Like, it really gets along and moves nicely. And I quite like that engine sound. I know that it's probably fake, but it actually sounds pretty cool. Hearing that inside the cabin. Wow, it is. That soft ride is bucking about as it hits bumps mid-corner, and it's causing the stability control to overreact. And that in turn is causing it to just wallow a bit as it moves over itself. Let's see what it's like along the back here. Obviously these aren't sports cars, but we test all cars back to back in the same way to unearth what their chassis are like. Look, it isn't actually too bad. 2,700 kilos, it's a fair bit of mass, but it is fairly predictable in terms of what it's doing. You just don't have the surety there of four-wheel drive automatic to give you that extra traction, but we're moving along pretty nicely. So yeah, all right. Look, it's definitely not a sports car, but I think that Toyota really could do with a bit more tuning on that suspension to improve not only the way that it handles bumps that you're going to experience in the country, but the way that it handles once the speed picks up as well. So let's talk about visibility. It is a big vehicle, and all of these American pickup trucks are big. They feel fairly big on the road, but the thing is that you get used to it pretty quickly. And even though it sort of is a little scary to start with, the bonnet gives you great visibility down the front of it, so you can see the edges of the car. You've got big wing mirrors here as well with blind spot monitors built into them. You've got parking sensors, 360 camera. It's got all the tools that you need to safely operate the vehicle, including this digital rear view mirror if you do have canopy or something in the tray there that is going to take up space. Okie dokie, time to do some testing of the semi-autonomous systems here. So do this at 70 k's an hour, and then we use the 3 outer lanes to test how well it's going to sit within its lane. So I'll set that to 70 k's an hour. All right, there it is there. So lane 1 here, doing a good job. All right, jump over to the next lane. All right, wait for that to activate. Sort of veering over to the line there. Yep. Just give it one more shot here. No, it's pretty disappointing. So it works in the easiest of the lanes, but it just won't even sort of hold itself in the two outer lanes, which is pretty disappointing. I would have thought that'd be an easy enough task. So there we go. It kind of does it after a while, but I think if I was driving by that point, I would have just cancelled that. Let's just try an outermost lane. Let's see if it'll work up here. No, it doesn't look like it. All right, works in lane 1 and 2, but not the outermost lane. Okay, let's do a little bit of performance testing. We'll see how quick the iForce Max is in a straight line. Put it in sport mode. I'll turn traction control off. Load up some revs. Given it can only run in two-wheel drive high range, we'll see how this goes. But all right, here we go. Go all the way through to 120. What is the point? Okay, all right. And there's 120. What I was trying to say is, what is the point of having 700 Newton meters of torque and rear-wheel drive? Because what I'm now going to go do is go back and do that one more time, because that number that we just achieved will be completely silly because it's spinning its wheels off the line. Actually, it's not terrible, 6.95 seconds, 0 to 100. But what I'll do now is go back, we'll leave traction control on and try that one more time. It just frustrates me when they do stuff like that. Every other vehicle in this segment has 4A, so that you can accelerate away with 700 Newton meters and not have to spin your rear wheels. So we'll leave traction control on this time and see what impact that has, but yeah, I don't know that it'll make much of a difference. Okay, so same story again. Traction control is on this time, so I'll just load up some revs and then through to 120. There you go. So it basically still spins its wheels, traction control bites, and it gets off much cleaner. All right, and there's 120. Okay. So that time around, 0 to 100, 7.04. So funnily enough, the fastest way to do it is to switch traction control off and leave in a flurry of tyre smoke. 80 to 120, 4.24, which is pretty good. It means it has really good mid-range there once the speed picks up. But, yeah. Anyway, right, let's go back and do a stop from 100 k's an hour. Okie dokie, here we go. Right. That actually didn't feel too bad. Let's have a look at that. So that was 100 to 0, 3.04 seconds, 42.97 meters. So look, typically anything between 35 and 40 meters is pretty good. Given this is such a big vehicle, pulling up in 42 odd meters isn't too bad for what it is. So, all right, let's see how quick it goes in reverse. Now, we switch off traction control here because for some reason Toyotas work go faster in reverse with that off. So let's give this a crack. Whoops, we'll slip off the line there. There we go, 49 kilometers an hour. Okay, let's do some light off-roading and see how this performs compared to some of the other dual cab utes in this segment. So I'll start off with the basics. I mentioned earlier that this only operates as a two-wheel drive, high range on sealed surfaces. You can't drive this in four-wheel drive high range on sealed surfaces because you'll bind up the transmission and it will cause you all sorts of dramas. You've got low range as well. There is no rear diff lock. The two-wheel drive versions of this car in the States come with an auto LSD feature, which basically mimics a limited slip differential. This doesn't have that either. So in terms of four-wheel drive controls, there really isn't much here, which is a little bit disappointing, I reckon. Ground clearance, 216 millimeters, so not a huge amount there either. Approach angle of 23 degrees, which is the angle of the face you can approach before you hit the front of the car, and a departure angle of 21 degrees, which is the same but in reverse. So only some pretty sort of rudimentary things here. There aren't even any drive modes for off-road here either. So I guess we'll just leave it in normal mode for the moment, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so we're going to kick off with our offset mogul in two-wheel drive high range. We do this to test traction control systems out. We'll see how well this works if you find yourself on a trail and you're in two-wheel drive. So we'll just get that rear wheel off the ground, just around there somewhere. I'll just lean on the throttle. Nothing so far. I'll apply a bit more throttle. Traction control is biting. I can see the light flashing there, but we're not progressing over this at all. So I'll hit the traction control off button, see if that makes any difference. No, that's just going to spin the rear wheels, which is not going to get us anywhere. I will try stability control off as well, just to see if that makes any difference. Okay, so that's stability control off now as well. Same thing again. All right, that's not great. So what we'll do now, I'll back off this. Look, with this test, it really is just a demonstration of how well the traction control systems work on the vehicle. You know, most dual cab utes that we test there, with the exception of a couple, will get over in two-wheel drive high range because traction control will stop the wheel from spinning, send torque to the wheel with traction, and Bob's your uncle. So with no 4 auto mode, you don't really have that option here. So what we'll do now is switch over to 4-wheel drive high range, and we'll try attack this in the opposite direction now, and just see how it performs again when we create a limited traction situation. Okie dokie, so get that wedged up here. The wheelbase on this will make this pretty easy for the vehicle, unfortunately, so it's not a great test for it, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, look, unfortunately the wheelbase kind of stretches it over that obstacle, so we might have to find something different for larger pickup trucks like this. All right, let's head over to our hill, which we attack in low range. Okay, time for our low range test. So our hill was regraded when another manufacturer came here to do some testing. So it is kind of going to be easy to get up here, but there are a couple of holes in there. We'll see how it all performs. We're going to switch over to low range. So flick that down into low range. There it is there. That switches stability control off. There is no diff to lock or anything like that. So what I'll try and do first is just go up with gradual throttle, and then I'll come back around, come to a stop, and then give it one more try. So here we go, gradual throttle. That's just the parking sensors. That's the first tyre in the ground. It's doing a good job there. A little unstuck now, but again, gradual throttle, no dramas. It's getting up there. Keeping in mind it is pretty well graded. So, and our mud bath is empty. But yeah, it actually climbed up there without any dramas. So there is no sort of grade control similar to what you find on a 300 series. That's an optional feature that isn't available on the base model. Toyota is bringing the Platinum model, which is above the Limited, which will come with some of those extra bells and whistles. So you're going to miss out on it if you get this at the moment. It just doesn't have any of those 4-wheel drive controls. All right, I'll put our camera view on so we can see over the front there. No hill descent control either, so I'll just manually hold first in low range. Press this, brake over angle is pretty good and works well there with holding first. Very nice. Okay, so we'll do our stop test here. I'll come up, come to a stop, and just see how it climbs out of its hole and whether it has a hill hold as well. So I'll bring it about to there somewhere. All right, here we go. So it's got a hill hold, which is good. Onto the throttle. Stay in that. Very good. All right, got up there. Yeah, look, it's interesting. The 4-wheel drive controls, it does lack the drive modes and stuff that you do find in some of those other competitors, but it appears like other Toyota products as well. Once it is in low range, it sort of takes care of itself and everything is pretty straightforward. It'd just be nice to see stuff like a diff lock and hill descent control, just some basic stuff like that. All right, let's head over to the rocks. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it in low range. We'll ride the brake with the throttle and and just see how it goes over some of this rock. I'll be keen to see, I mean, with the soft suspension, this would be ideal spot for it because you're going to be cruising over this stuff with a bit more comfort. It's allowing me to use brake and throttle at the same time, which is good. It just means that I can crest some of these rocks without it sort of lurching ahead too much. And without drive modes, like a rock drive mode that softens out the throttle travel, it is tricky to just sort of sustain momentum without going too quick, but this allows us to do that, which is pretty good. So, all right, in terms of Tundra off-road, what do we think? Look, it's fine. You do have to kind of get into low range for it to feel meaningful, but you know, that is what it is. Hopefully, if they do bring a new version of this, it will have a few more of those bells and whistles. What about the Tundra in general, though? Look, to be honest, I'm pretty underwhelmed by it. I just think that, A, it's expensive. I know the Australian dollar isn't doing that well, but for the same money, you can get basically the top spec Ram 1500 that has more features, is way faster. I just don't know who the market for this car is. I'm then further disappointed by the fact that they spent like a year doing testing, like an additional year doing testing, which is the whole reason they delayed this whole program. And we've got issues like this where I just can't move the steering rack, which is just out of control. The knocking noises that you hear on a car that's going to set you off close to $200,000 on the road, that sort of stuff is really unacceptable. And yeah, I'm just a bit disappointed that it isn't better than it is. So anyway, that is my take on it. So let me know in the comments section below, what do you think of the Tundra? Have you bought one? What has it been like for you? Has it got the same rattles that we have? Is the steering hard to move like ours is? You know, we do have explanations from Toyota, but to be honest, the car has just over 1,000 kilometers on the clock. They've done a year of testing. I think they should have ironed it out by now. So if you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. Do you want us to do some tow testing with some of these big dual cab utes now that there's a few more on the market? Let me know. But until next time, take it easy.